Hi, and welcome to the next module. In this module, we're going to discuss communicating clearly. In this module, we'll focus on the way in which you as a service provider deliver your communication. The objectives of this module are to define the elements of communication, identify and use positive words rather than negative words, and evaluate the impact of inflection and body language when communicating. For those of you that have been in this business a while, you're probably aware that the vast majority of problems are caused by one factor: failure to communicate. Not only do we sometimes fail to communicate with customers, we also fail to communicate internally, which ultimately has an additional impact on our customers. That's why we're going to spend this module sharing some thoughts about communication. Now, as many of us know, communication is a two-way process of sending and receiving information. In our last module, we discussed listening or receiving. Let's begin our discussion today by examining the different ways in which you send communication. There are basically three elements to verbal communication: words, inflection or tone of voice, and body language. While all three are important, they impact communication differently. Each element brings a different weight to the overall tone of your message. Since all three of these factors contribute to our communication, it's important for the three elements to match in their message. If you say nice words but deliver them wrong, your words won't be believable. So let's now look at each one of these elements individually. And first, let's talk about word choice. Choosing your words can be challenging. You can convey the exact same facts in either a negative or a positive manner simply by arranging your thoughts and words differently. Opting for the positive approach is going to keep your receiver much more open to the real message and keep the lines of communication flowing. It's kind of like the psychology of communication. Look at this image. The individual says, "Your ideas will never work." This is an example of a statement that conveys a negative approach. Now, this image, the individual says, "How about this option as a temporary solution?" This is an example where they're essentially saying the same thing, but in a much more positive and non-confrontational manner. Let's do another quick example. The negative statement here is, "You're always late for work and it has to stop." A positive alternative would be, "I've noticed that you have trouble getting here on time. How can I help you solve this?" I mean, it's amazing how even one word can spark a fire in a conversation. By nature, certain words are negative. They almost always evoke a defensive reaction in people. When someone's talking to you and in the middle of the sentence they say, "but," what do you immediately think? You immediately think something bad is going to follow. So not only do we need to be diplomatic in our sentence structure, as shown in the previous exercise, but we also have to be mindful of each and every word we use. Now let's take a look at another element of communication, which is inflection. Inflection is all in how you deliver your words. It's your voice pitch, your voice volume. It's how you modulate a word. It's about which words you emphasize. By changing your inflection, you can take a word or phrase and change them from vinegar to sugar and vice versa. Let's walk through the same sentence, but change the word that we emphasize to show how much changing the word we emphasize can change the entire meaning of the sentence. I didn't tell John you were stupid. 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 See, that example shows you just how much a change in inflection affects the meaning of an entire sentence. That's the power of inflection. With one change in emphasis or change in pitch, you can change the entire tone of your communication. Okay, so let's move on to the final element of our communication: body language. As we already mentioned, body language conveys over half of the overall tone in communication. Given this, you can imagine how vital it is to understand how these gestures may be perceived, or more importantly, misperceived. If your body language doesn't match your words, which do people believe? Well, people will likely believe your body language. Let's walk through a number of different body language behaviors and define what they exactly mean. A bouncing leg could mean impatient or bored. You have to go to the bathroom. Raising an eyebrow could mean disagreement, interest, or surprise. Nodding your head could mean, come on, get on with it, or you agree, or talk faster. Leaning forward can convey interests that you can't hear, confrontational even. Remaining silent means disagreement, confusion, anger, processing information. Or there's also frowning, which means you could be disagreeing, or you can't hear, or you simply don't understand. Looking away can mean you're disinterested or you're distracted. Making eye contact could mean confrontational. Not making it could mean you're not listening or you're just tired. Sighing could mean that you're bored, you're full and you just ate, or you're concerned. Folding your arms could mean you're defensive, you're cold, or you're just comfortable. Shrugging your shoulders could mean, whatever, I don't care. I don't care, good or bad, or you just have sore muscles. And drumming your fingers could mean you're impatient, could be out of habit, could be you're nervous, or you're late to be somewhere. Now, after hearing this list and seeing me act them out, you probably recognized a few nonverbal behaviors that you tend to do. Pick out a couple that going forward, you'll make a concerted effort to control in front of customers. So in summary, we all communicate constantly, even when we don't intend to. And becoming an aware and positive communicator means that you'll become more successful both personally and professionally. So that's it. It's a wrap. I want to thank everyone for listening to Communicating Clearly, and I look forward to seeing you in the next module.